A house in the garden. What this film is about is introducing nesting boxes in your garden to attract the birds. People often ask the question, do nest boxes serve a purpose other than give pleasure to humans? The answer is definitely yes. Gardens are a most important habitat. Natural nestings are in decline, so nest boxes placed in the garden can make a real difference to the success or failure of the breeding species, especially when accompanied by a regular supply of suitable food and water. They can be erected in spring or when the wife is out shopping. Do not place any nest boxes close to a bird table or feeding area, as the regular comings and goings of many birds are likely to prevent breeding. The house sparrow are found in a variety of habitats, from city centres to farmland, but in the UK the population has plummeted. In the early 70s there were 25 million breeding pairs. Now today there are only 13 million. The lack of nest sites and food in towns has had an impact. Dunnocks are known as hedge sparrows. It's often seen on its own, creeping along the edge of a flower bed or near a bush. They only feed off the ground, whereas the house sparrow will feed anywhere where there's food. Starlings look black at a distance, but when seen closer they are very glossy, with a sheen of purple and green. The chaffinch is the UK's second commonest breeding bird and is arguably the most colourful of the UK finches. Its plumage helps it blend in when feeding on the ground. Greenfinches are colourful characters with their green and yellow plumage. It's a popular garden visitor. Although quite sociable, they may squabble among themselves or with others at the bird table. Just look at this female blackbird. It's trying to nest on my car tyre when I was at the caravan. If it was an endangered species, I would have had to ring work and tell them I could not get back for 3 weeks because a bird had made its nest on my wheel arch of my car. I don't think that would go down with the bosses very well at work. Now if you think that is a strange place to bring up chicks, you'll be surprised when I tell you where a pair of blue tits have nested. When making this film, I didn't know whether to call this film a house in the garden or a house at work. As we all know, the government has brought in some new legislations banning smoking in public places. Well, the company I work for has already come into line by having special ashtrays made, which have been fitted to the outside walls. Nobody would have thought that a pair of blue tits had decided this was going to be their house for the next few weeks. The pair cleaned out the ashtray of cigarette ends before making a start on building their nest. No one had realised until one of our bosses went for a smoke. After finishing his cigarette, he put the tab end in the ashtray, only to be surprised by the end of the cigarette being quickly thrown out. Since, the ashtray on the wall has been left alone, so the tits could get on with the job in hand. When I first looked in the ashtray, they had built the nest. 2 days later, the female had laid 11 eggs. Several days later I went back to the nest and saw the female removing eggshells from the nest, so I decided to have a look and was surprised to count 8 chicks. Feeding have kept both parents very busy and have been bringing the chicks an assortment of food, from flies, spiders and caterpillars. It's hard to believe a brood of young blue tits may eat 3,000 insects before it leaves the nest as a fledgling. On a number of occasions I have seen both parents leaving the nest with chick droppings. You can spot a young blue tit because they have yellow cheeks, whereas the adults have white cheeks. Out of the brood, it is most likely only one fledgling will survive to breed the following year. And if the blue tits nest in your box, it is more than likely the pair will nest the following year. Blue tits normally pair for life and can live up to 21 years. So, how about putting a house in your garden?